And let me tell you about the Higher Self Expo July 2021. It's a 24-hour event with 33 guest speakers who are sharing their wisdom and exploring the connection between science and spirituality. Today's guest is a guest speaker at this event. To register your place and find out more, go to www.higherselfexpo.com. Hey everyone, it's Louisa Munson from Feel Good Astrology, and I've got a lovely Feel Good conversation for you today. I'm really excited because I'm talking to somebody who is, I've yet to find out actually. I'll read you a little bit of his bio in just a second, just to give you a little bit of a taster, and then I'm going to bring him on. But he's an expert in numbers, and patterns and the spiritual glue that holds everything together. So I'm, as you can imagine, with my love of patterns and things myself, I'm rather stoked about this. So let me tell you a little bit about him just before I bring him on. I'm going to read this just so that I get it right. So our guest today is a French philosopher, online influencer, political activist, technologist, health science and consciousness researcher. And there's so many other titles. He's originally from France, but now lives in Sydney, Australia. So we're connecting up over a massive time zone. His interests include reinvigorating food, biomagnetic field enhancement, bioresonance, bioarchitecture. That's something I've not really known about. Cymatics, I do know about. New spiritual paradigms and permaculture. He's also, as if that wasn't enough, got a master in law and a background in psychology, world economy, international geopolitics, alternative health, and blockchain technology. And it's his dream to inspire every individual to participate in the creation of a glorious new world made of human sovereignty. Amen to that, brother. So I'm going to bring him on now. There's so much more he can share, but you know what? I'd like to have him in person. So it's my absolute delight and pleasure to bring on my guest today, who, as you can probably see from the banner here, is Roman Light. Just to let you know, we are also opening the chat room. So if you would like to ask him any question at all, feel free to do so. I'm sure that's going to really enhance what's going on today. So anyway, it's my delight to bring you on. Hi, Roman. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Thanks for having me, Louisa.
Oh, no, it's an absolute pleasure. I'm really delighted. So my first question, because I've been having a look at your website, it's got so much information on, by the way, and I'm going to just share your website address, which you can see just down below if you've got good eyesight, but it's www.sacredarithmetic.com. And when I was there, I was seeing, the full range of what you do. And I guess my first question, because I couldn't quite see it from the actual website, is how did you come to have all these skills? Was this something that you always knew inherently, or did you just do a ton of reading and get there yourself? Or was there something sort of intuitive behind it all that kind of forced you forwards?
Well, thanks. It's a great question. I don't know where to start because, this is the let's say the classic way of introducing myself, which is that everything was coincidental and synchronistic and everything. But there's also another part of my story which started when I was something like 6 months to 2 years old, and it's something that I still remember that I kept secret for many years because of the fear of being shamed or judged. Yeah. And it was that idea that when I was I remembered hearing voices in my head when I was something like six months old. Yeah. And the idea was that I was sent on earth as an angel, no matter what that means, to support humanity to move into its next direction in the future.
Yeah.
And it's an idea that came in my mind, and I still have the blueprint or the souvenir of that voice that I had in my head, even if back in the day I had no way to understand what humanity was, what the world was, what time was, what influencing means. Like, it was just that weird things of like, yeah, okay, that's my life mission, we'll see. And I don't even know if it's real or if it's just something that I just created in my mind because of a Christian background and whatever, like my mom or my grandmother said or something like that. But I always kept it somewhere in my head saying, well, we'll see
Yeah.
if one day that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I just had like, I'm just coming from a little town in south of France, nothing fancy, classic education. My parents were not particularly spiritual or artistic or anything. And I just live my life with no particular goal except trying to understand who I am. And slowly through a background in law that I didn't really want to do, I just did it to please my dad. And then I did some psychology because I was always interested in understanding the human mind. And I was doing poetry and music. And one day I created a business in interior designing. Nothing fancy. I was always interested into metaphysics and trying to understand what is beyond.
Yeah.
And then I created a business in renewable energy, which introduced me to the realm of energy, efficiency, autonomy, and all that. And then I bankrupt and lost everything. And then I started to question the world. And I spent the last 11 years starting from zero, rediscovering everything from ground zero as if I knew nothing, and trying to develop a kind of sense of truth inside of me instead of receiving truth from authority and the way we've been educated. I'm just starting to feel inside of me that sense of truth. And I'm trying to encourage more and more people to get that intuition, like connecting to yourself and trying to feel truth more than understanding or more than receiving truth from somewhere else. And this brought me to that sacred arithmetic concept that strikes me years ago. And it took me like 4 or 5 years. I think I received it something like 6, 7 years. I was doing some research with about Nassim Haramein work on the structure of the vacuum, but I was also doing some research about Marco Rodin's number 9's concept and the vortex mathematics. And there was something in both who really strikes me, but there was also something who was fundamentally wrong in both perspective.
Right.
And that's when I came across this sacred arithmetic symbol who suddenly was reunifying and completing and explaining the two perspectives. And it took me something like another 4 or 5 years to really get my head around and understand how deep this is and how deep it can go, which is, I'm still blown away because every year or two I discover something even more mind-blowing about that symbol, and it just constantly never stops to amaze me. It seems to be never ending. It's just that infinite fractal that can be expressed in every aspect of our existence, and I'm just mesmerized by it.
That's an absolutely beautiful way to describe, the mystery and journey of life, of which I really feel what you're saying there, like 100%. I was interviewing somebody recently who is a walk-in soul, and I said to him, "Go on, tell me, is it numbers that underpins the whole universe? From your sort of perspective of not, being here for the first time." And remembering, the knowledge that you had before. And he said, yes, it's absolutely numbers. And it's based on a 12 number set, he said. So I just thought I'd share that with you. And maybe you can hook up and chat.
Well, my perspective is that numbers are submitted to the same laws as creation. So no, I can't agree on the idea that numbers underpin anything, because numbers are just numbers. Reality is made of a form of mechanic, or there's a mechanical way to reality, and there's a irrational way in reality, and both of them are. We can talk about the mechanics. We will never be able to talk about the irrational, because the irrational have its own language. It's like comparing the brain and the heart. So if someone is telling you that numbers are underpinning reality, he's actually thinking from his mind, but there's a whole other aspect of reality that is. It's an irrational coherence, and that's something that the mind doesn't really like, because the mind likes to have like white or black, And the way I look at reality is that the glass is never half full or half empty. It is both. It is both, and it's actually made of molecules, which means that it's actually filled with something, because air is also something. But also all those molecules are made of atoms, and those atoms are made of 99.99% of nothingness. So it's actually nothing. So it is everything. It is nothing. It is half full. It is half empty. And this is what the mind doesn't like. He doesn't like that
White as well.
everything is true and everything is false at the same times. That life is and life isn't at the same time. This is something that like we need to have something or something else, and I cannot agree with that, because in my experience, both are truth. So no, reality can be coded through numbers, of course.
Yes.
But I cannot say that reality is emanating from anything outside of God. And that's where the question is, what is God?
Yeah, well, in his defense, actually, I think he was referring to my very rational question about, how is life coded? Because, from the interview with him, he was definitely talking about, like, the universal God energy, the force behind everything. Absolutely. So you're saying, and I love that you clarified yourself so articulately there. It's fantastic. So numbers aren't, like, from your perspective, like, numbers aren't underpinning our reality, but they can help us to define it. Is that right?
Well, the numbers are an interesting tool because they are symbolic by essence, which mean that in one numbers, and this is where the whole sacred arithmetic concept came from, it's to decode the hidden language into numbers.
Yes.
Because numbers are not just any shape. Like a 0 is a 0, a 1 is a 1, a 2 is a 2. But the question is why? Why 1 is 1, 2 is 2, and 3 is 3? And it just strikes me one day, well, I can easily summarize it with just an easy approach. Like I normally use PowerPoint, but I used to do it with fingers. So let's take just a pencil, for example. So if I just look at this geometry here, what does it show you? So let's start by the statement that there is polarity in this reality, that everything is polarized, that everything has a positive or a negative, a masculine or feminine, an infinity or chaos, or nothingness, or an order or chaos. Like everything is polarized.
Yeah.
So if we determine that the masculine symbolism is based on straight line, and the feminine symbolism is based on curve, okay, what that geometry looks like is a 1. Okay, and that 1 doesn't have any horizontal line, so it's actually connecting the sky to the earth using the direct straight line. Okay, if I had to use the feminine energy, I would then use the double curve, because the double curve creates that double movement with no horizontal line in between. You have a symmetry showing that which is above is like that which is below. You have that double curve, but you have no horizontality in the symbolism of the 1 and the 8. Now, if you look at the horizon that separates the universe, the sky and the earth, which is the only thing that we can all agree on. Like, no matter if you believe that the universe is flat or if the universe is round or circular or whatever, you have to agree on the fact that if you're looking outside, there's an horizon. If you had to use the same energy to go up, you will use the straight line. And when you use the straight line from the horizon, you will create the number 4. Number 4 is a straight line going up and then going down. And if I was using the straight line going down, I would create the number 7. So the number 7, the horizontal is above, and in the number 4, the horizontal is in between. If I'm now using the curve from the horizontal line, and I go up, what do? I create the number 2.
Yeah.
And if I go down, I create the number 5.
Yeah.
So the curve going down is the number 5, the curve going up is the number 2, the straight line going up is the number 4, and the straight line going down is the number 7. And what I realized 4 or 5 years ago is that, wait a second, when I'm reunifying that which has been separated, what is happening? When I reunify the 1 and the 8, 1 plus 8 equal 9.
Yes.
When I reunify the curve pointing up, the 2, and the straight line pointing down, the 2 plus 7 equal 9. And when I reunify the straight line going up, the 4 plus the curve going down, the 4 plus 5 again equal 9. And I was like, wait a second, is it just me, or is there a code that is just before my eyes that I couldn't see before, that is encoding a fundamental dynamic of the universe, the way it actually operates and separates things across forms and motions and numbers? And what if this code could actually bring us to a whole different perspective on the reality? And that's when it all started. It all started with this just simple observation that the geometry and the shape of numbers is not just coincidental. There's a hidden language there. And so the next question will be then, well, where are the 3, 6, 9, and zeros, which are the numbers which are fundamentally creating reality? And you're like, well, when you take the 3 masculine numbers, the 1, 4, and 7, so one straight line going up and straight line going down, 1 plus 4 plus 7 equals 12. And 12 is 1 and 2, and 1 and 2 is 3. And then you take the 3 feminine numbers, the 2, 5, and 8, 2 plus 5 plus 8 equals 15. And 15 is 5 and 1, 6. And you're like, oh my God, the 3 and 6 are there.
Yeah.
They are emanating from the numbers. And what happened to the 9? Well, the 9 is all everywhere, like the 0. Yeah. 0 and 9 are just the same. If you understand numerology, you know that 0 and 9 are the same. It's that which is added to reality that do not alter reality. Why? Because it's the substance of reality. Substances of reality is it's binary and binaural, and this is what we call God. God is not one thing. It is one and is not one.
Yeah.
And it is one because it is oneness, because it is everything that is. But it's not one because it is actually dual. Why is it dual? Because God is made of nothingness and infinity.
Yeah.
It is nothingness and infinity reunifying into one concept. Yeah. And it's two because everything that is one, and everything that is God. But it's also dual because infinity and nothingness cannot be. They are just absolute concepts. The only way to become is to become it, which is what we call existence. Yeah. So existence and reality are infinity and nothingness crossing each other in field that we call present or presence, which is what we're experimenting right now. And what you see in my symbol, in the sacred arithmetic symbol, is just depicting the whole mechanics of how all that is operating. So I don't know if you can put the image on the screen so people can follow the symbolism. But the way, the architecture of the structure of how all that is happening just happen on that symbol. You have the 1, 4, 7, you have the 2, 5, 8, you have the 9 in the center, and then you have the 3, 6, 3, 6, 3, 6. And it just explains how energy comes from nothingness and infinity, which is in the center and everywhere, 9 and 0, and move into 3 and 6, split into 3 and 6, and then split into, because 3 plus 3 plus 3 equal 9, and 6 plus 6 plus 6 equal 18, which is also 1 and 8, 9.
Yeah.
And then they split into 1, 4, 7, and 2, 5, 8, which is the way our reality is operating. If I stop my camera, maybe people will be able to see it. Okay, can you see my symbol now?
Yeah, we can see it. It's a little small, actually. What I was going to do is put a link in with video so that people can see it.
It is difficult for people to understand if they can't see it visually. But yes,
I was looking at it last night on your website and thinking, yeah, that's cool. I love those patterns where everything just works, and you see the perfection of something in that moment, and it's like, oh my goodness.
If you look at the symbol, you're going to see the number 1 at the top and the number 8 at the bottom. 1 plus 8 equal 9, and then you're going to see the 2 plus 7 equal 9. And you're going to see the 4 plus 5 equal 9, and then you're going to see the 3, 6, 3, 6, 3, 6, which create 3 plus 3 plus 3 is 9. And 6 plus 6 plus 6, 18, which is 9. And this brought me to this other understanding that the decimal system wasn't accurate. It was an inaccurate way to look at reality, because when I look at my fingers, I do not have 10 fingers. I have 5 and 5. I have 1 thumb and 1 thumb, 1 index and 1 index, 1 major and 1 major, but I do not have 10 fingers, because having 10 fingers would mean that I have 10 identical fingers, which is not true. I do not have 10 identical fingers. I have 5, which is a specific geometry related to the pentagon, related to the Goldman ratio, the root square of 5, like this whole Fibonacci sequence, the number 5, and the other number 5. So what I can say by looking at my fingers is that I am symmetrical. But what is the real name of symmetrical is polarity.
Yes.
So I am actually masculine and feminine. I have a feminine aspect in myself, and I have a masculine aspect in myself. And when both of them are reunified, what do we create? We create not a decimal system, which is based on decimation and separation. By adding more and more and more zeros, we actually create harmony. So the real name of 10 is not actually 10. The real name of 10 is the first nonav of 1. Because after do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, you have do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si. Musically, what it says is that the more you increase frequency and the more you actually end up your journey back to the beginning. Not exactly the same point, because do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do, do. The do is not the same. It has the same geometry, the same cymatic form, but it's not exactly the same. So it's a harmonic of it. It's a resonance of it. So the real name of 10 is first harmonic of 1.
Yes.
The real name of 19 is second harmonic of 1, because 19 is 1 plus 9, 10, which is 1 again.
Yeah.
And so 11 is the first harmonics of 2, 1 and 1, 2. So 20 is the second harmonic of 2. And by thinking this way, we suddenly come from a realm where we could not see the cyclicity of life, the rhythm, cyclicity, and that's where arithmetic is coming from. If you can read the thing, sacred arithmetic, the sacred art of rhythm.
Yes.
Because arithmetic is art and rhythm.
Of course.
Art and rhythm. Arithmetic, the art of rhythm, which is integrating the art, which is the beauty, the expression of things, and the rhythm, which is the cyclicity of things.
Yes.
So arithmetic is superior to mathematics. Mathematics is based on equation and complex perspective, which is a distortion from the arithmetic, the original arithmetic. The original arithmetic doesn't need equation, because reality do not need equation. It just needs a connection with. So it's a rhythm. It's an observation. It's a blissful observation. It's an awe to reality, and the deep understanding of the cyclicity of things that women understand through the period, but man needs a reminder of the cyclicity of existence.
Yeah.
Make sense, or is it?
No, it's brilliant. I can see we've got people watching us, so please do share, who you are and where you're from, and if you have a question, it'd be lovely to include you in this amazing sharing about the arithmetic, the sacred art of rhythm. No, it really makes sense. It perfectly makes sense. So you had this discovery, and you've been working at a deeper level every 2 or 3 years. Something new kind of comes forward to you for you to capture and to integrate and to like vibrate with this new knowledge. Where do you think your numbers are taking you, and how have you started to apply them in your life?
Well, my numbers again are just the blueprint of the path. They are just there to show a journey. They are not real, because numbers are just numbers. They could have different shape. They would still indicate a path and a journey. I've been lucky to see the code encoded into them, but what is really valuable is not the numbers themselves. It's the wisdom that that is encompassing into them. Yeah. Like when you look at straight line, what is a straight line? It's a sequence of points, but when you move a straight line, you create a curve. And that curve is the feminine aspect. So let's say that the straight line can symbolize a fixed perspective in reality, and a curve can actually symbolize the motion of those straight lines. So suddenly you're starting to see again that polarity happening in the way forms is expressed. So let's say like numbers are symbolic in the expression, and the symbolism means symbolos, and symbolos is coming from the Latin roots, which is with meaning. And the diabolo, by opposition to the diabolo, the symbolo and the diabolo gave birth to the devil, which is that which separates. So when you are with things, bring things together, which is harmonious, and then you have the diabolo, which is separating things, which is creating a separation. And that's the whole story of humanity. The whole story of humanity is to sometimes dance on one side of the pendulum, which is that tendency to go towards nothingness. And this is maybe one of the biggest mystery of and the biggest misunderstanding of modern spirituality or ancient religion, is that there is absolutely no difference between infinity and nothingness. God isn't more Jesus than he is the devil. There is no separation. The notion of good or bad are just perspective, and that perspective is only limited to when you look at things in a particular moment. But when you take a bigger picture, everything that was bad one day on another will become good, and everything that is good in the moment one day on another will become bad, because this is a dance. This is a constant dance between order and chaos, and this is something that is very vivid in the Indian tradition, where they are very familiar with this concept of Shiva and Kali, like the chaos and the builder and the order, the destruction forces and the building forces. Same with Osiris and Seth, and the battle between the sun and the moon, and the day and the night, and you have this constant dance. And I believe that today, because we have completely lost this wisdom in our tradition, and we are conditioned to see reality in a very limited way, with all the taboos that we are going through, the taboos through sex, the taboos of death, the taboos of thinking laterally, we are living a living hell, because we are building a shell that is killing us. And I like this analogy of a shell, because a shell is something that protects you. But if you're not capable of breaking it, it will kill you.
Yeah.
If you see a little chicken that is into an egg, that if it doesn't have the strength to cut and to pierce the shell, it will die into it. And I see evolution and existence as a series of shells that we have to create, because we need to have an order in order to destroy the order. We need to have a base in order to destroy that base, to create, to destroy, to recreate, to die, and to rebirth. We need to have a shell, but we also need to, we have the duty, we have a right to have a shell, but we have a duty to break that shell in order to create another one, and to break this other one, and so on. And this is the constant dance of life. We can't escape that system. And the quicker we realize it, the quicker we are in peace with it, the happier we are in our life, because chaos is only there to break a shell, to allow another one to come. So it's not the end of the world if society, civilization, or expectations are destroyed. It's just a natural process.
When you were talking about the shells, I think it's great when we have a big shell around us, that gives us a bit of space to grow before we're ready to kind of punch our way out of it. One thing that I'm kind of conscious of right now around the world is that rather than being encouraged to come out of our shells, it feels like shells are getting closer and closer to us and squashing our spirit, and if anything, that should make us more determined to punch our way out of it and go, no, enough of it. But it feels like at the moment, a lot of people are actually wanting to hide in the shells and not break free.
And this is their choice. They have an absolute choice to be killed by the shell.
Yes.
Because the more they're going to be afraid of the shell, the more the shell will become stronger and more rigid. And it's going to be harder and harder and harder because every emotions, every thought that we are creating are adding more level of shell. When you are afraid of breaking the shell, you are creating a fear, and that fear is just densifying that shell, which is going to make it even harder. And I believe that in a way, some people will, when you lost yourself so deeply and your life become meaningless, because you just accepted all the program of the psychopaths, which are infiltrating your psyche and trying to sell the idea that separating is good. Because we are living in a profoundly satanist reality, in a satanic world. And for those who cannot see it or who are accepting it in their flesh, Satanism only means that dissociation, separation. That's what Satanism literally means. It's a separation. Separation from what? Well, if you are oneness and you believe that you're not oneness, if you are a consciousness, if you're a mind, if you're an emotional body, a physical body, a spiritual body, but you believe that none of that is connected, well, you're disconnected. And that disconnection will make you see the world in a specific way. If you don't feel in your flesh that you are actually all of that, and you are also everything that remains when everything has been taken away from you. If you're not aware of that, if you're not aware of that little voice, that little perspective to the world, that is the true essence of who you are. You are not your body, you're not your thoughts, you're not your emotions, you're not even your soul. You are that unique perspective to the world that is just contemplating creation. which is made of infinity and nothingness, which is the source of God, like the God source, infinity and nothingness. We just get back to that space. It is infinite and it is nothing at the same time.
Yes.
Until you make peace with that concept inside of you and recognize it inside of you, you will believe that you are your life story. You'll believe that you are your thoughts. You'll believe that you are your emotions. So in a way, you are separated from yourself. And if you believe that, if you become the idea of the entity, the identity is the idea of the entity. You are not the entity anymore. You become the identity.
Yes.
Well, an identity can disappear. And that's normally the process that the soul is going through. When you die, you rebirth, you have another identity, you have just a new clothes, a new costume. But if you finish to believe that the costume is you and yourself, because creation is, and it is what you want it to be, and it is what you think it has to be, then if the costume disappear, you will disappear with it.
Yeah.
And I believe that some souls just want to dissolve themselves, and they want to disappear, and they just want to be taken away by the nothingness because they're done, because it's for whatever reason, because there are architecture, as I said earlier, there's things that we can't understand. There are irrational things that we can't understand, which are much bigger than anything we can ever imagine.
Yes.
But if some people are in a subconscious level, in a soul level, are done with reincarnation and living more experience and going towards infinity, well, they will just buy the idea that separation is good, and they will just dissolve and disappear. My belief system is that, for example, if you believe that there is life after life, then life after life will happen.
Yeah.
If you believe that there's nothing, then nothing will happen.
Yes.
The universe will never give you what you don't want. It will give you opportunities to change your mind.
Yeah.
But if you already lived what you believe you had to live, you may disappear or dissolve, or you may downgrade your consciousness into a different realm, because there's not big difference between the mineral realm, the plant realm, the animal realm, and the human realm. There's not much difference in the consciousness level. There's just a perspective about choice. Like the only difference truly between minerals and plants is that the plants can actually grow vertically instead of expanding like mineral does. And the difference between plant and animal is that plant can move quicker in space than plants, but they live less longer in time than plants. And the difference between animals and humans is, again, choice.
Yes.
Like the capacity of humans to have a bigger choice, which is bringing them closer and closer and closer to the God's realm of infinity and nothingness, is a huge responsibility. What do you do with your choice? Do you choose to go and expand towards infinity, or do you do your choice to go down towards nothingness?
Yeah.
Do you evolve or do you devolve? Do you expand or do you contract?
Yes.
And this is a choice that we have. And some people just decide that choice is not what they want to do, and they just prefer downgrading themselves.
Yeah, and one thing I notice as well is that people refuse to make a choice as well, which is a choice in itself. And of course,
exactly.
if you stop accepting the idea of a choice, then life stops giving you choices, I guess.
Which is in a way what I'm trying to do. Weirdly enough, I'm trying to never make choice. How can I explain that? I'm trying every time to perceive the big picture. So I'm trying never to stand on one or the other.
Yeah.
Like the way I perceive myself is that I am the alchemist that brings order into chaos and chaos into order.
Yes.
Who brings light into darkness and darkness into light.
Yes.
Okay, it's not one or the other. It's always both. So yes, I do act and I do things, but I never choose one or the other, because I'm fundamentally aware that both have their purpose.
Yeah.
And in that term, I'm never really upset at reality, because reality is a dance. I'm not here to choose which one is better than the other. I'm here to embrace whatever life asks me to do. I'm in service to reality.
Wow, it's a lovely way of considering it. I want to just share some audience in participation. So we've got one of our frequent listeners, Stephen Wells from the UK. He's missed the first 10 minutes, but just settling into what's being discussed. I know Stephen will be absorbing this quite readily, and I'm sure we'll get something from him a bit later as well. And we have an unusual attendance from my husband. He's saying, well said. That came in actually when you were talking very much about the separation of the emotional, the spiritual, the physical, and and the bodies. And I think my husband is really loving the fact that you are talking in a way that he can really understand. And as such, and because he's a broadcaster and he likes to have his own little question time as well, he's asked a question. So he's saying, Roman, having had this revelation, how have you realized it in your life? I trust it has set you free. I really appreciate the simplicity and profundity of what you are saying. That's high praise indeed from my husband. Thanks, Carl.
So the question is, how did it come to my life, or how did it change my life?
How have you realized in your life, like, have you used this information? Like my husband's implying that it must have set you free in some way.
Absolutely. That's what the biggest life-changing perspective is, that it is a true revelation. That's the real world. It is a revelation. Revelation is a big world. The way it came to me was actually mathematically. Weirdly enough, I can demonstrate all that with numbers and not equation, but arithmetic language. Mm-hmm. When I show to people the true shape of numbers, the true timetables form, the true division table form, and the way you should read them and the way you should understand them, it's mind-boggling, because it's so far from the way you've been educated. Yeah. You've been educated to learn them and repeat them. But just by observing those timetables, I realized that 9 was inside and outside, and 0 was inside and outside. And I can actually show you physically where it is and why you couldn't see it before, and how this actually changed your whole perspective by understanding exactly what it is, what 9 represent, what 0 represent, what 147 represent, what 258 represent, what 3 and 6 represents. And by putting back the real name or the real definition to those numbers, suddenly you're like, oh my God, it's everywhere. Yes. It's everywhere, in every aspect of creation, in the quantum physics, in the infinite, and suddenly it's just become obvious. Yes. Like when people ask me the question, what is the universe? What is the cosmos? I'm saying, you want to see the cosmos, just look inside a cell. Because that which is inside the cell, after you dive into the cell, what do you find? More and more emptiness. Yeah. And what happened beyond that emptiness is that you end up in the universe. Yeah. How else reality could have been created? Because as soon as a creator created anything, well, who created the creator? Yeah. Like you never end up. And the truth is that creator can never be created without the creation creating it. The same way a child is creating the father do not create the child more than the child create the father. Yes. And that sounds weird. It says, well, I concept the child. Of course, the boy concepted the child, but the father is born with the birth of the child. The same way, if you're painting a painting, the painting is painting, or not painting the painters, but it's creating the creators. Yeah. Because when the paint is created, then the creator look at it and separate itself and say, oh, this is a creation. And by witnessing and admiring the creation, he actually admires himself through its creation. Yes. So yes, the religion, and that's what the religion tried to say, that has been completely taken away from its context, is that yes, we have been created at the image of the creator, because of course the creator cannot be expressed. Infinity and nothingness cannot be expressed. You cannot show them. You can only show them through geometry, because they are symbolic. And as far as I'm concerned, this is the best way to represent God. The torus. Yes. Okay, the torus is that infinity plane that go there and end up into nothingness. So you have the 0 and the 9 here, and you have everything that is around. And this is a beautiful company called One Stop Energy that is designing those beautiful things that are encoding the 12 clockwise and the 12 counterclockwise Fibonacci sequence vortex field. But if you look inside, you will see what? You will see a plane disk, that thing here. Yeah. It's a plane disk. Well, maybe this is the Earth. Yes. Maybe this is the Earth with this the sky above and something below that could actually be the negative expression of who we are. Who knows? Who knows what is inside the earth? Who knows what is under the earth?
Yeah.
So, well, that revelation just brought me peace. So whenever something wrong happens to me, it's not that I believe that there's an order in the universe. I know that there's an order in the universe.
Yeah.
And I can always refer to that order to bring me back to that state of peace and detachment, because I'm like, no matter what happened to my life, and I went through hell and back from hell and back to hell and back from hell many, many times in my life. I died and rebirthed many times in my existence. And every time that I came back from hell, it's the same journey, over and over and over and over. Hell is here to destroy what was, to allow the new self to rebirth.
Yeah.
And every time I had to learn something and deconstruct my shell to allow that new shell to be rebuilt, it's another hell, because every time you have to pierce that shell, you going through hell again. Hell, by the way.
Shell,
it's just
hell,
an
yes.
S difference.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a shell. Hell is the shell without the S. And the S is the motion in the Hermetic language. The S is that which moves. It's the serpent, the present, the anagram of the present. So when you remove the S from hell, when you add, the shell, the hell is that static shell, the shell that cannot be pierced anymore.
Yes.
Because when it cannot pierce anymore, then you are in hell. You are closed in your own belief system, and you die basically. So there's no hope for evolution.
The addition of the S creates movement so that you can move out of hell.
So you can pierce it. You can pierce it, and piercing is that pierce that St. George used to bring the dragon into earth by piercing the heart and opening to another shell. That's the other trick, is that you cannot escape those shells. They're just there to give you a context in which you can evolve and grow. They're just here to give you that boundary that you have the duty to break in order to become a new version of yourself. Yeah. And that's where the Phoenix perspective is coming from. You have to burn at yourself. You have to purify yourself through the fire, to allow the fire to quit your body, to become ashes, and to rebirth from those ashes into another version of yourself. And this is my philosophy for many years. I'm not afraid of dying. I've never been afraid of dying. First of all, when I was young, because I have no idea what dying was truly meaning. But later, it actually strikes me to realize that, damn, I'm actually dying every day. Yeah. That my cells are dying every single day to allow my body to rebirth. But even in a mental perspective, every time that I'm learning something, there's an ignorant aspect of myself that has to die in order to replace it with a new knowledge, a new perspective, a new point of view. And so dying is actually something absolutely natural. But for whatever reason, people have that obsession about, I only have one life, which is absolutely not true. And physics is actually quite clear about that. Nothing is ever created. Nothing is ever dying. Everything is constantly transmuting and transforming. So guys, just be in peace with it. You're not going to go anywhere, except if you wish to. If you wish to dissolve yourself, if you wish to disappear, if you wish to downgrade into lower element of creation, well, you should actually be conscious of it, because you should be conscious of the missing of the great adventure of infinity. Infinity is just a long eternal journey. It never started and will never end. And it's a dance between nothingness and infinity. Death is just there as a passage between to life and to existence and to it's a threshold. It's not the end of anything, because nothing has ever started in the first place. It is just there to give you an opportunity to explore new dimension, new reality. I don't know if it's clear, because in my mind it is so clear. I don't know how people can perceive it, but I wish people can perceive it as clear as it is, because it is the essential missing point to the peace that we're looking for.
Well, from my perspective,
the peace that we're looking for is inside of us.
Yes, absolutely. I understand what you're saying, and I know that each minute that passes, my understanding of that gets clearer and clearer, because I'm always having these moments where it feels like things are just dropping away, and I just see more and more. But for me, I use analogies of plants always, like when you're talking about the egg, and you can get it bigger and grow more, or you can get smaller. Like when I love permaculture myself, and so when I'm growing things, you start them in a really small pot. And as the roots get stronger, you give it the challenge of filling, the roots growing into a larger pot and a larger pot and a larger pot. And then you think, okay, let's put it in the ground now. Voila, it's there. And also when you were talking about the baby creating the parent, I mean, when I've got 3 children, and when I was, first of all, I heard my children talking to me, like calling themselves into existence, before I'd even conceived them. Each one, I heard them kind of pulling at me, saying, "I'm here, let me in." And so they were sort of like, I don't want to sound all, ooh, look at me, but it felt like they were consciously created. But my sense when they were inside me was that my womb was a portal to the universe. So when you're talking about looking at a cell and you go inside, there's the universe. I knew full well that, this baby physically was growing in me, but the soul was deep in the universe, which was right in my uterus, in my womb. It was amazing. And so there is this huge feeling of time and space and nothingness and everything. It's amazing. So I love that. So thank you very much. We've got a few comments coming in. No more from Carl, so he must be satisfied. That's good. Stephen has said, what has it set you free from? Because you were talking about, my husband asked, has it set you free? And you said yes. Stephen's wanting to know, what has it set you free from? And he's also saying, you just said when something wrong happens, what about the thing that determines it as being wrong?
Well, exactly that. What sets you free is from the conditioning, that it sets you free from the acceptance of what is comfort and what is not comfort. And again, comfort is a shell, so you're comfortable in your shell, and then you just get used to being that comfort. And when you are in that comfort, and life just comes and breaks a shell or brings something that is chaotic, you're like, oh, maybe life is just breaking that shell that I wasn't strong enough to do by myself. And so life just break that shell, and you're like, oh my God, now I'm facing a different reality. And was I ready for it? Was I not ready for it? Well, it is what it is. It is now. So you have to deal with it now. So, no matter if you're ready for it or not, it just happens.
Yes.
And this is when astrology is really good, because all that is a part of destiny, and it's a part of in life you have those momentum when you have a choice to be in line with your destiny, and sometimes you choose to be in line with your destiny, and sometimes you be rejecting your destiny and deciding to, well, just give me a bit more time to deepen my conscious relationship with who I am, and maybe later I'll be able to question my current state and move towards my destiny, because our destiny is already written. We're all going towards infinity, which is nothingness in the same time. So it's a beautiful analogy of the gave birth, because when you were born, you were nothing, and then you became that egg, and that egg you demultiplied to create that multi-billion cells system that will just go back to nothingness. And something that I love to share is that a lot of people are afraid of dying, but according to people who died, everyone just came back and said, all those people who came back from death just said that it's just a beautiful experience.
Yeah.
Why? Because they haven't yet experimented the other side of death, which is rebirth, which is a much, much more traumatic experience in my understanding. Birth is probably one of the worst experiences that can ever happen, because you're coming from that absolutely cocoon space of warmness and love and connection and oneness with your mother and everything. And suddenly, out of the blue, we just jumped into reality and started to and cry and be confused, and you're blind and you don't see anything, and you just feel all those people's energy, and you hear those voices, and it's just like this air in your lungs. It's just, that's why people don't want to remember that. No one wants to remember their birth. You can only go through that through hypnosis.
Oh, from grace.
But instead of being afraid of dying, guys, you should be afraid of not dying, because then you will have to physically die and do the things all over again.
Yeah.
And I believe that this is not smart. Like
I love that.
Yeah, like instead of being afraid of dying, you should be afraid of birthing, because birth is absolutely traumatic. So I love this idea of dying a little bit every day. And Freud used to say that orgasm and making love is a form of death, a little death.
Absolutely.
Because for a few seconds, you just disconnect everything, and you're just exploding in that bliss.
Yes.
So if death is a massive orgasm, I mean, like that's pretty sexy. Like if the birth, my God, it is a shocking experience.
Yeah.
So I'd love to say those things, because suddenly just give, whoa, okay, I never thought that thing through that perspective. Because if people are just obsessed with the fear of what they don't know, I say, well, if there's nothing afterwards, well, you're just going to dissolve and disappear, and there's absolutely nothing to say about. But if you have to rebirth again, just get ready, because it may not be as fun as this life. You can actually birth into the body of a pig in a pig factory and be treated like a piece of crap, like a piece of meat, and you'd be shockingly like, while you are human right now, you have a mission, you have a capacity to do things, you have a capacity to thrive and grow and break those shells to become a better version of yourself. Yeah. Use it wisely, because you don't know if you don't deserve reincarnation, or if your reincarnation just go wrong. Worst case scenario. Best case scenario, nothing happened, you disappear, you dissolve, whatever, no problem, fine. Best case scenario, you come back in this life as a human, or as an animal, as a plant, and you don't know if it's going to be a better or worse experience. So try to make the best out of what it is at the moment, not in terms of enjoying yourself, but because life is not just about enjoying yourself. Of course, it is about finding joy in every aspect of who you are and what you can do, but it's rebringing that notion of rights and duty. Yes, you have a right to joy, but then you have a duty to care for others. And this is another thing that is absolutely missing in our society, that is absolutely devastating. So to get back to that question of what that knowledge brought into my life, of course, nothing is ever wrong, but you have expectations. Like, you cannot just be pure spirit all the time. You have flesh and blood. I love my kids. If tomorrow someone was killing my kids, of course I'm going to be devastated, and I'm not just going to hide somewhere saying, no, it's just life. It's
not made up.
Life has its purpose and its goal and everything, and I'm just here to be. No, I'm just going to be destroyed. Like my identity will be dismantled, and I will have to recreate another one, and rebuild that thing, or not. I would just decide to crash and say, that's enough. I'm done.
Yeah.
And that's it, and that's where free will is coming from. You always have a choice to embrace chaos and order, and choose both of them in every aspect of your life, and decide to prolong and give your energy and your attention to either one of them.
That's fantastic. I'm going to have to draw this to a close in a minute, but I've got a couple more questions and a couple more comments. So Penny Albertella from the UK is saying she's not afraid of dying, but just, I don't want to come back as anything. I just want to be. So Penny is one of these people will infinitely merge, presumably. And she's also saying she understands now why her favorite numbers are 3 and 9. So that's great. Thank you, Penny. So you're a speaker at the Higher Self Expo. The Higher Self Expo is coming up on the 17th and 18th of July 2021. There's 33 guest speakers, and you're one of them. Can you give us a quick synopsis of what you're talking about at the Higher Self Expo?
Well, I'm probably going to speak about the same thing, because there's, as far as I'm concerned, there's no more important message to get back into the core of all that, and being able to get free from those perspectives. Because I can talk about these things in a geopolitical way, in a societal way, in an economical way, in a historical way, in a philosophical way, in a hermetic way, in a mathematical way, in a geometrical way. The same things happen over and over and over and over, fractally dismantling and sparkling around with their beautiful dance. What else deserves to be shared today? Some people wanted me to talk about my life. My life doesn't really matter. People don't really care about where I come from. What they care is about what I can deliver at the moment. I would just give to people that perspective, and maybe dive deeper into all them, or maybe I would just share the same content. I don't know. I'm just in a moment. I don't really know in advance what I'm going to talk about. It depends on what people needs to hear, what they want me to talk about. But unless they understand the core essence of what it is, the topic that I decided to say is that the reality, the future, will be spiritual or won't be. The future will be spiritual or there will be no future. Why? Because today we're living in a reality where science decided that reality is dead, and is trying to contaminate the whole world with this perspective that reality is dead, which is true in one way. Yes, the reality can be seen as nothingness, and this is what they do. They take a picture of reality and they say, well, this is reality. Says, no, this is a picture of reality. The picture of reality is not a picture. The same way you cannot study life through corpse. And that's what they do in medicine. You cannot define life, you cannot express life. However, everyone is talking about bringing health without even understanding what life is, without understanding the underpinning concepts that are governing the totality of what is. So I find so much arrogance in modern science, and so much arrogance and that's why the subject of science and spirituality is fascinating me, because I don't see a difference in between. I see science as a way to look at reality as if reality is dead, and as a spirituality as an attempt to see reality as something alive. And both are right, because one is looking at nothingness and the other one is looking at infinity.
Everything.
Which one is true, which one is not true? Both are right and wrong at the same time. It is your perspective that will make a difference. How are you going to position yourself towards this dilemma? Would you embrace one perspective or the other one? That's where the real dilemma is happening. So it's an individual choice that is coming in place, not really the group or the world or whatever, which is an emanation of the one. But again, God is infinite and nothing at the same time. It is one and infinite and multiple at the same time. So we need to bring peace in our mind by embracing those so-called paradox, which are not paradoxal. It is just the way it is.
Wow. Awesome. If somebody is thinking, I really want to work with Roman, how can they engage with you? How do you want
they can find me on Facebook, Roman Light. Facebook banned me 7 months over the last eight months. So I don't know for how long my account will stay on. I'm preaching to the choir for years through political activism, through alternative health, through metaphysics. I'm trying to spread that truth all over the place. So I'm still lucky that my account is still on, but I have many accounts. They can, if they want to dive into this knowledge, they can find the Sacred Arithmetic group on Facebook. They can find the YouTube channel. I have many YouTube channels when I'm trying to disseminate that knowledge as much as I can. They can find me on Telegram. This is the easiest way to find today is Telegram. Roman Light on Telegram. I have a few group where I'm sharing political, metaphysical, like everything, because it's all one. So I'm just not sharing just one thing, I'm sharing everything. Or my website, sacredarithmetic.com.
Fantastic. So if there was one last thought you wanted to leave people with today, what would that be? That's my last question.
There's I think the most important thing is that there is an order. And I would like to continue by saying, no, there's no order, but yes, there is an order. No, there's no order, but yes, there's an order. And I mean, there's an order if you want to believe that there's an order. And if you want to see it, then you can go through my work and my research and face that order and realize that, yes, there is an order, even if I can also show you that there's no order. But just being able to have that understanding, that knowing that there's an order will already resolve so much of everything that is happening in your life, because suddenly you're like, oh, okay, it is happening because there is an underpinning agenda that is much bigger than myself, that I'm just here to sit down and relax. And when I'm saying sit down and relax, doesn't mean don't do anything. It just means like do what brings you joy, what makes you vibrate. But don't get obsessed with the side effect and the consequences, because every experience will just break those shells to allow you to rebirth. So the message is, it's all good, it's okay, it's fine, it's great. Just keep smiling to the world, enjoy what you are and who you are. Never be afraid of asking questions, and never be afraid to dive into the darkest place of who you are to find that spark of beauty.
Incredible. That's perfect. Thank you so much for your time today, Roman. I really appreciate it. It was fantastic. And to thank you, everybody who has shown up in the chat room and has shared a question or just participated. If you want to stay in contact with Roman as he's expressed, you can probably find him under Roman Light or Sacred Arithmetic over a number of platforms, but in particular Telegram. And I have to give Telegram the thumbs up. That's where I hang out most of the time myself. It's a fascinating subject, and I'm sure we can talk more about it. Would you be happy to come and talk another time, maybe in 6 months' time? Or anytime. I think it'd be a great ongoing.
I'm in service to reality, so my position is more to let people come to me when they're ready. I'm not really going towards things. My position is, and if people wants to expose my work and wants to bring me out, then it means that the synchronicities, the red line, are happening, and I'm in service for whoever needs my help.
That's perfect. We got one last comment, I think. Let's just see. Oh yeah, Penny's just saying thank you so much for such a fascinating talk. Thank you for joining. Okay, thanks a lot, Roman. We'll catch you another time. Enjoy your weekend and everything. God bless everybody. Have a great time, and hopefully we'll connect again with you really soon. Bye for now. If you've enjoyed this conversation, then why not support today's guest at the Higher Self Expo in July 2021. The Higher Self Expo is a worldwide 24-hour event with 33 guest speakers who are all sharing their wisdom and exploring the connection between science and spirituality. To register your place and find out more, go to www.higherselfexpo.com.